The alien forest was quiet, too quiet. The air smelled of damp leaves and glowing flowers. Strange lights moved between the trees. Ethan, a young human boy with messy brown hair, was walking along a narrow path carrying a small pack on his back. He had been sent to trade dried fruit with a nearby village, a trip he had made before, but today felt different. The trees were taller here than anywhere else, their roots twisted like sleeping snakes. Every sound seemed to echo. Ethan's boots crunched softly on the mossy ground, and he kept glancing over his shoulder. He felt like someone or something was watching him. Then it came, a sharp cry, high and frightened. It wasn't a bird, it was a voice, a young one. Ethan stopped, his heart jumping. He listened. The cry came again, louder this time, followed by a low, rumbling growl. Without thinking, Ethan dropped his pack and ran toward the sound. Branches whipped at his face. Roots caught at his boots, but he didn't slow down. The cries grew clearer, and then he saw her. An alien girl, about his age, stood with her back pressed to a thick tree trunk. Her leg was trapped under a heavy fallen branch. Her skin was pale, with a faint glow under it, her hair long and silver. Her wide golden eyes locked on Ethan for a brief moment before snapping back to the creature stalking toward her. The beast was massive. Larger than any wolf Ethan had seen. Its fur was black with streaks of red, and its jaws dripped with thick saliva. Two curved horns rose from its head, and its tail lashed angrily. It was crouching low, ready to pounce. Ethan's breath caught. He had no weapon except the wooden spear he had whittled for fishing. But the girl's eyes, full of fear, burned into him. He didn't think, he just moved. With a shout, Ethan charged forward. The beast spun toward him with a snarl, its teeth flashing. Ethan jabbed the spear toward its face. The wood cracked against one of its horns. The beast roared and slashed at him with claws like knives. Pain ripped through his arm as claws tore into it. Hot blood ran down his sleeve, but Ethan didn't stop. He thrust the spear again, aiming for its throat. The point sank in halfway. Before snapping, the beast reeled back, choking, before turning and crashing into the undergrowth, disappearing into the shadows. Ethan staggered, his arm burning, his vision blurred. He turned to the girl. Her eyes were wide in shock. She had never seen a human before, not this close, not one, who had just fought for her. She tried to pull her leg free, but the branch was too heavy. Ethan limped over and pushed with all his strength. His wounded arm throbbed, but the branch rolled away enough for her to slip free. She stumbled, catching herself against him. "You're safe now," Ethan whispered. His knees buckled, and he collapsed to the moss. The world tilted, darkening around the edges. The forest was silent again. Except for the girl's trembling breath, she knelt beside him, unsure what to do. Blood soaked his sleeve, his skin pale. He had risked everything without even knowing her name. She touched the strange cloth of his shirt, feeling the warmth of his blood. She had been told humans were selfish, dangerous. But this one had thrown himself between her and the beast without hesitation. Her heart pounded. She could not leave him here, not after this. She reached into the small pouch at her side and pulled out a silver horn-like object. It was smooth and cold, etched with glowing lines. She raised it to her lips and blew. The sound was low, but carried far, rolling through the trees like a deep hum. Somewhere in the distance, other sounds answered. Ethan's eyes flickered open for a moment. He saw the girl's face above him, framed by her silver hair. Her golden eyes were wet, like she might cry, "Help is coming," she said softly, her voice trembling but certain. His lips moved in a faint smile before his eyes slid shut again. From the darkness of the forest, movement stirred. Figures approached, tall, armored alien warriors with long spears and glowing blades. Their armor reflected the light of the glowing plants, and their steps were heavy on the moss. The girl stood and stepped in front of Ethan as they arrived. One warrior pointed his spear at the boy, his voice sharp. "Why save a human? The girl's voice shook but held firm. "Because he saved me." The largest figure stepped forward. His armor was darker, heavier, his face marked with lines of age and authority. His eyes, deep and sharp, studied Ethan's still body. The chief had arrived, and the look in his eyes promised that whatever happened next would change everything. The chief's shadow loomed over Ethan's still body. His armor caught the faint light of the glowing plants, making him look even larger. His eyes narrowed. Studying the strange boy at his feet, the other warriors stood in a half circle, their expressions tense. One warrior stepped forward. "Chief Varric, it's a human." His tone was sharp, almost disgusted. "We should leave him. Let the forest take him." Lyra, the alien girl, moved quickly between Ethan and the spears. Her small frame was shaking, but her voice was steady. "No," she said. "He saved me." The warriors exchanged glances, muttering in low voices. A human risking his life for one of their people was unheard of. Humans were supposed to be greedy, untrustworthy, violent. Yet here was one lying in the moss, bleeding because he had fought a beast for her. Chief Varric's gaze shifted from Ethan to Lyra. "You are my daughter," he said slowly, "and your safety is worth more than 100 warriors." His tone was unreadable. Lyra's chest tightened. She didn't know what her father would decide. Varric raised one large hand. "Carry him," he ordered. Two warriors stepped forward reluctantly, lifting Ethan's limp form. The boy's head lolled to the side, his face pale under the dim light. Blood still dripped from his arm. Leaving a dark trail on the moss back to the village, Varric commanded. His voice was like stone. As they moved through the forest, the warriors kept their distance from the boy, as if touching him too long might stain them. Lyra walked beside the one carrying him, her golden eyes fixed on Ethan's face. She was afraid he would stop breathing before they reached safety. The path wound deeper through the forest until they reached a wall of living vines. The warriors touched glowing stones set into the ground, and the vines slowly parted, revealing the alien village. The village was like nothing Ethan had ever seen, though he was too weak to notice. Large dome-shaped homes made from woven branches and glowing crystals stood in neat rows. Suspended bridges connected tall platforms in the trees. The air was filled with the faint hum of alien life. The warriors carried Ethan straight to the healing tent inside. The air was warm and smelled of crushed leaves and strange herbs. A healer, tall and thin with long fingers, approached. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of a human, but she said nothing. She began working immediately, pressing glowing salves into the wound. The pain burned through Ethan's body, and he stirred, muttering something in his own language. Lyra leaned close, trying to hear. His eyes opened briefly, unfocused, then closed again. Outside the tent, voices rose, warriors gathered, speaking in angry tones. "He's human," one said. "Why waste medicine on him?" "He's dangerous," another added. "Humans always want something in return." Chief Varric's voice cut through them like a blade. "This one saved my daughter." Silence fell. His gaze swept over them, daring anyone to challenge him. "Until I decide otherwise, he stays under my protection." Inside, Lyra sat beside Ethan, watching the healer's hands work. She remembered the way he had charged at the beast without hesitation. His face had been pale with fear, but he had not run. He had stood his ground for her, someone he didn't even know. Ethan's breathing grew steadier. Though his skin was still cold, the healer wrapped his arm with layers of glowing fabric, sealing the wound with a faint blue light. When the work was done, the healer stepped back. "He will live," she said. "If he rests." Lyra's shoulders relaxed. She reached out and gently brushed a strand of hair from Ethan's forehead. His skin was warmer now. His face looked younger when he wasn't frowning in pain. Night fell over the village, the glowing crystals dimmed, and the sounds of the forest softened. Warriors still whispered outside. Their distrust hung heavy in the air, but inside the tent, Lyra stayed close. Her thoughts tangled. Her father had made a choice that would not be forgotten by the tribe. Bringing a human here was risky. Keeping him alive was even more dangerous. And yet, when she looked at him, she didn't see a danger. She saw the boy who had thrown himself into the jaws of a beast to save her. Chief Varric entered quietly, his presence filling the tent. He stood over Ethan for a long moment, his eyes thoughtful. Then he looked at Lyra. "You say he saved you?" "Yes," she replied without hesitation. "Then he will live," Varric said, "but he will not leave until his debt is repaid." Lyra frowned. Debt. Varric did not answer. He turned and left the tent. Leaving only the sound of the forest outside, Lyra looked back at Ethan. She didn't know what her father meant, but she had a feeling the human boy's fate had just been sealed. Morning light filtered through the tent's woven walls. Casting soft golden patterns over Ethan's face, he stirred slightly, blinking against the light. His arm ached, wrapped in strange glowing fabric. The air smelled of herbs and smoke. Unfamiliar yet calming, Lyra was sitting nearby, her knees drawn to her chest. She had been there all night, watching him breathe. When she saw his eyes open, she straightened quickly. "You're awake," she said softly. Her golden eyes searched his face, as if making sure he was really alive. Ethan's voice was weak. "Where am I?" "In my village," she replied. "You're safe. For now." Her last words made him uneasy. Before he could ask more, the tent's flap lifted, and Chief Varric stepped inside. His tall figure filled the space. His presence was heavy, commanding. Silence without a word. Ethan tried to sit up, but his arm protested with a sharp pain. Varric's gaze moved from the wound to Ethan's eyes, studying him like a rare and dangerous animal. "You fought a shadow beast," Varric said slowly, "and you lived." "I didn't fight it for glory," Ethan answered, his voice low. "It was going to kill her." He nodded toward Lyra. A flicker passed through Varric's eyes. Something between respect and calculation. No human has ever bled for one of ours, the chief said, not without asking for something in return. "I didn't ask for anything," Ethan replied. Varric stepped closer, his shadow falling over the boy. "And yet you have taken something from me." Ethan frowned. Confused. "What?" "My people's trust," Varric said. His voice was calm, but carried weight. "By saving my daughter, you have placed me in your debt. That is not a place I like to be." Lyra's head snapped toward her father. "He owes you nothing. He saved my life. That is why he is still breathing," Varric said sharply. "But a debt must be balanced. And the way we balance it is through trial." Ethan's pulse quickened. Trial. Varric did not answer right away. Instead, he studied the boy as if deciding how much truth to reveal. Finally, he said, "You will remain here until you prove yourself worthy of the life you took back from the forest. My people will judge you, and I will decide your fate." Ethan's mind spun. "And if I don't pass this trial?" Varric's gaze did not waver. "Then the forest will take you back." The chief turned and left the tent without another word. The air felt heavier. In his absence, Lyra looked shaken. She leaned toward Ethan, speaking quickly. "My father is testing you. He doesn't trust humans. None of them do. But if you pass, you could be safe here." Ethan exhaled slowly. "And if I fail?" Lyra hesitated, then looked away. "No one survives the trial if they fail." Outside, voices murmured. The village was waking. But the tone was tense. Ethan could feel the weight of unseen eyes on the tent. He realized they were already talking about him. judging him before the trial had even begun. Over the next few days, Ethan tried to regain his strength. Lyra brought him food, strange fruits, glowing roots, and warm broth that smelled like mint and smoke. She taught him a few alien words, simple ones like water, friend, and danger. The warriors who brought supplies avoided looking at him. Some muttered in their own tongue before leaving quickly. Each night, Ethan heard drums in the distance, steady and deep. Lyra explained it was the sound of preparation. The trial was coming, and the whole village would be there to watch. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the crystals in the village began to glow, Chief Varric entered again. His face was unreadable. "Tomorrow," he said simply, "the trial begins." Ethan swallowed hard. "What do I have to do?" Varric's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, but there was no warmth in it. "You'll know when it starts." He turned to leave, but paused at the entrance. "You saved my daughter's life," he said. "Now you must prove that your life is worth saving." When he was gone, Lyra sat beside Ethan. "My father is difficult, but he is not without honor. If you pass, you will be part of us, in a way no other human has ever been." Ethan met her gaze. "And if I don't?" Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then you will be gone by nightfall." The fire between them crackled. Outside, the drums began again, louder this time, cooing through the trees like the heartbeat of something ancient. Ethan lay awake long into the night, knowing that when the sun rose, his fate would begin. Morning mist curled through the village, clinging to the woven walls of the homes. The air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and glowing flowers. Ethan stepped outside the healer's tent for the first time since he had arrived. His arms still ached under the glowing bandages, but he could move it enough to walk. Lyra waited for him just beyond the doorway, her golden eyes bright in the pale light. She handed him a small bundle wrapped in leaf cloth. Inside were strips of dried meat and round blue fruit. "Eat," she said. "You'll need your strength." Ethan took it. "Thank you." He ate. Slowly, the taste strange but good. He noticed the way other villagers watched him as they passed. Some glared openly, others turned away. A few of the children peeked from behind their mothers, curious but too afraid to get close. "Don't take it personally," Lyra murmured, walking beside him. "They've been told humans are dangerous their whole lives. And what do you think?" Ethan asked. She hesitated, then smiled faintly. "I think one human has already proven that's not true." They walked together through the village. Ethan saw how different it was from any human settlement. Homes seemed to grow out of the forest itself, vines forming walls, crystal windows catching the light above. Wooden bridges swayed between the massive trees, connecting high platforms. Alien birds with shimmering wings darted overhead, filling the air with soft trills. Lyra led him to the edge of the village, where a group of women were weaving large nets from silver thread. She introduced him in her language. The women looked at him with skepticism, but let him sit for the next hour. Lyra showed him how to twist the threads. His fingers fumbled at first, but she laughed softly, correcting his grip. "You learn fast," she said, surprised. "Guess I'm motivated," he replied. His eyes met hers briefly, and she looked away with a faint blush. Later, they carried the nets to a wide stream on the far side of the village. The water glowed faintly under the shadows of the trees. Ethan helped lower the nets into the current, his movements clumsy at first. But soon he matched Lyra's rhythm. They worked in silence, but the silence felt comfortable when they pulled. The nets up small fish with translucent scales wriggled inside. Ethan was amazed. "They look like glass. They taste better than they look," Lyra said with a grin. They carried the catch back, and Lyra insisted he take some to the healer as a gift. By midday, Ethan began to notice the change. The villagers still kept their distance, but their glares were less sharp. A few even nodded at him. He realized that working alongside Lyra was slowly showing them he wasn't a threat. That night, the two of them sat near the central fire. The flames reflected in Lyra's eyes, painting her face in warm gold. Ethan found himself telling her stories about his village, about the river he used to swim in as a child, about the stars he would watch from his rooftop. Lyra listened closely. "Your world sounds open," she said. "Ours is always surrounded by the forest. Sometimes I wonder what it's like beyond it." "Maybe one day," Ethan said, "I could show you." Her smile faltered. "You have to survive the trial first." The drums began. Again, slow and steady, echoing through the trees, reminding Ethan of what was coming. The fire crackled between them, and the shadows of the villagers danced along the walls of the clearing. Suddenly, one of the warriors approached, his gaze hard, human. He said in their tongue a word Ethan had learned quickly. "The chief wants you at first light." Ethan nodded. The warrior stared at him for a long moment, then left, when the noise faded. Lyra turned back to him. "My father will never admit it, but he's watching how you act with the people. The trial is only part of it. He's testing you already." Ethan leaned back, staring into the dark forest beyond the firelight. Then, "I hope I'm passing." Lyra's voice softened. "You are, to me." The words lingered between them, unspoken meanings hanging in the cool night air, for the first time since he arrived. Ethan felt something shift, like he wasn't just a prisoner waiting for judgment, but someone who mattered here. At least to her. They stayed by the fire until the crystals overhead dimmed, signaling deep night. When Lyra finally stood, she hesitated. "Sleep well, Ethan," she said. "Tomorrow everything changes." Ethan watched her disappear into the mist. The drums still echoed faintly in the distance, like the heartbeat of the forest itself. He knew she was right. Tomorrow the trial would begin, and the bond they had built might be the only thing keeping him alive. Dawn broke over the alien village, the mist curling away as pale sunlight filtered through the towering trees. The drums began again, louder than before, each beat shaking through the wooden platforms and vine bridges. It was the sound of gathering, of judgment. Ethan stood at the edge of the central clearing, his arms still wrapped in glowing bandages. Chief Varric stood across from him, tall and immovable. The entire village had gathered in a wide circle, warriors in their gleaming armor, elders with carved staffs, and even children perched high in the branches to watch. Lyra stood among them, her hands clenched tightly. Her golden eyes never left Ethan. Varric's voice carried over the crowd, deep and unshakable. "This human shed blood for one of ours, a debt that cannot go unpaid." His gaze moved slowly from the crowd to Ethan. "Today, he will face the trial of the forest, and the forest will decide his worth." Two warriors stepped forward, each carrying a long spear with a blade of black crystal. They offered one to Ethan. He hesitated before taking it, the weight heavy in his hands. The spear was perfectly balanced, the blade sharp enough to slice the air with a whisper. Without another word, Varric turned and began walking toward the forest. The crowd parted. Ethan followed, feeling every eye on his back. The warriors formed a silent escort, their footsteps in perfect unison. They stopped at the forest's edge. Beyond this point, the trees grew so thick they blocked most of the sunlight. The air was cooler here, filled with the sound of distant movement, things crawling, things watching. Varric spoke. "The trial is simple." His eyes fixed on Ethan. "Bring back the heart of the shadow beast." Ethan froze. He knew that name. The same kind of beast that had attacked Lyra, massive, horned, and deadly. "You have until the sun reaches the middle of the sky." Varric continued. "Return before then, or the forest will claim you." Ethan glanced at Lyra. Far back in the crowd, she gave the smallest nod, her lips pressing into a thin line. He could almost hear her voice in his mind. "Come back alive." The warriors stepped aside. Leaving a narrow opening into the forest, Ethan tightened his grip on the spear and stepped forward. The moment he crossed the boundary, the air changed. The forest swallowed the sound of the village behind him, replacing it with the creak of branches and the rustle of unseen movement. The ground was soft with moss, but roots rose like traps underfoot. He moved carefully, scanning for tracks. He had no idea where to find a shadow beast, but he remembered. It smelled like wet earth and blood, and its deep, rumbling growl. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Sunlight broke through only in thin beams, somewhere to his left. Something snapped a branch. Ethan turned quickly. Spear raised, his heart pounded. The forest seemed empty, but the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. A sudden roar shook the air, low and guttural. Leaves trembled on the branches. Ethan spun toward the sound just in time to see a massive black-shaped charge from the shadows. The shadow beast was bigger than the last one, its fur bristling, horns sharp, eyes like burning embers locked on him. It moved with terrifying speed. Ethan dove to the side as its claws raked the ground where he had stood. He rolled to his feet, spear ready. The beast turned and came again, mouth open wide, rows of jagged teeth glistening. He thrust the spear forward, the blade grazing its shoulder. It roared in pain, swinging a claw toward him. The force knocked him back, his breath leaving in a rush. The spear almost slipped from his hand, but he tightened his grip. The beast circled him now, its tail lashing the air. Ethan's mind raced. He couldn't match it for strength, but maybe he could use the forest. He backed toward a fallen tree, ducking just as the beast lunged. Its head smashed into the trunk, splintering wood. Ethan used the moment to drive the spear into its side. The blade sank deep, hot blood splashing his hands. The beast let out a terrible scream, twisting and snapping at the spear. Ethan pulled it free and darted away. The fight raged through the trees. Each time the beast lunged, Ethan dodged. Each time it faltered, he struck. His body ached, his breaths coming hard. But he refused to fall. The image of Lyra's face flashed in his mind, and he pushed himself harder. Finally, the beast made one last, desperate charge. Ethan braced himself, planting his feet. He lowered the spear and drove it upward as the beast leaped. The blade pierced its chest, the momentum carrying it forward until it collapsed at his feet. The forest fell silent again. Ethan stood over the still body. Chest heaving, he dropped to one knee, cutting into its hide until he found the heart large, black, and still faintly warm. He wrapped it in leaves and tied it to his belt. With the sun climbing higher, he began the long walk back. Every step felt heavier, but the thought of the village, of Lyra waiting, kept him moving. When he emerged from the trees, the crowd gasped. Blood streaked his clothes. The beast's heart in his hands, Chief Varric stepped forward, his eyes on the prize. Ethan didn't speak. He simply held it out. The chief took it, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he nodded once. The trial was over. But the real judgment had yet to come. The clearing was silent. The only sound was Ethan's heavy breathing and the faint thud of the shadow beast's heart as Chief Varric held it high for all to see. Sunlight broke through the canopy, glinting off the black surface of the organ. The crowd stared, disbelief clear on their faces. Some warriors exchanged uneasy looks. Others whispered in low voices. No human had ever completed the trial of the forest. None had even returned alive. Ethan stood in the center, his legs trembling from exhaustion. Sweat and blood streaked his face. His hands were cut from gripping the spear. His chest rose and fell quickly, but his eyes never left Varric. Chief Varric lowered the heart slowly, his gaze still fixed on Ethan. "The forest has spoken," he said in a deep voice. "The human lives, dumb." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. A few warriors frowned, clearly unhappy with the decision. Others simply stared at Ethan like they were seeing him for the first time. Lyra stepped forward from the edge of the gathering. Her golden eyes were bright, almost shining. She looked as if she wanted to run to him, but held herself back. She knew her father was watching. Varric turned to face the people. "He came to us a stranger, wounded and weak," he said. "He leaves the trial a warrior." From one of the warriors came a loud protest. "A human cannot be called a warrior of our people." The words carried anger, but also fear. Varric's eyes narrowed. "And yet he has done what you have not." His voice was like stone, unyielding. He fought the shadow beast alone and returned with its heart before the sun reached its peak. The forest does not lie. The warrior fell silent. But the tension in the air was thick. Then, in a move that stunned everyone, Chief Varric stepped forward, pulling a heavy armband from his own arm. It was made of dark metal and carved with swirling patterns that glowed faintly. Ethan had seen similar bands on the arms of the most respected warriors in the village. "This," Varric said, holding it up for all to see, "is the mark of a protector." He turned to Ethan, his expression unreadable. "It is not given lightly." Ethan's breath caught. He didn't fully understand the meaning, but he knew this was something important. Varric placed the armband on Ethan's right arm, fastening it with a click. The metal was cool against his skin, and for a moment, it seemed to pulse faintly, as if alive gasps rose from the crowd. A human wearing the mark of a protector was unthinkable. Yet here it was, before their eyes. Ethan met Varric's gaze. Searching for the reason behind the gesture, the chief's voice dropped so only he could hear. "You have more courage than most of my warriors." When Varric stepped back, the villagers began to murmur, some in approval, others in outrage. But none dared speak too loudly against the chief's decision. Lyra finally stepped closer, a small smile on her face. "You did it," she whispered. Her voice carried both pride and relief. Ethan managed a tired grin. "Couldn't let you think I was useless." For the rest of the day, the village celebrated. Fires were lit, food was brought out, and music filled the air, though not everyone joined the celebration with the same heart. The mark on Ethan's arm commanded respect, or at least silence. As night fell, Ethan sat by one of the fires, the warmth easing the aches in his body. Lyra joined him, offering a drink in a carved wooden cup. "This is rare," she said. "My people don't often honor outsiders like this." "Feels strange," Ethan admitted, looking at the band on his arm. "Like I've been given something I don't deserve." Lyra shook her head. "You earned it. The forest saw you. My father saw you, and—" She hesitated, glancing into the fire. "I saw you." Her words hung in the air, warm as the flames. Ethan wanted to reply, but before he could, Chief Varric approached. The music quieted as the villagers noticed his presence. He stopped in front of Ethan, looking down at him. "You wear that mark now," he said. "It means you protect this village and its people as if they were your own." Ethan straightened. "I understand." Varric's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then understand this tour life here is no longer your own. You have stepped into a place where your actions will echo for years." Ethan nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the words. Varric turned to walk away, but paused, glancing over his shoulder. "Rest tonight, human. Tomorrow we speak of what comes next." Ethan watched him go, the firelight flickering across the dark metal of the band on his arm. He didn't know what the chief planned, but he knew this was not just a reward. It was the beginning of something far bigger. Lyra leaned close, her voice low so only he could hear. "My father doesn't give trust easily. If he's given you that band, it means more than you think." Ethan looked at her, then at the mark on his arm, and for the first time since he'd entered the village, he felt a strange mix of fear and belonging. Morning light spilled into the village, soft and golden. The fires from the night celebration were nothing but embers now. Smoke curled lazily into the air. Ethan woke in the healer's tent, the weight of the dark metal armband still firm on his arm. He turned it in the light, tracing the glowing patterns with his fingers. Lyra entered quietly, holding a bowl of warm broth. "Eat," she said with a small smile. "You'll need it." Ethan took it, sipping slowly. "You make it sound like something's coming." Her smile faded. "Something is." Before Ethan could ask, the tent flap lifted, and Chief Varric stepped inside. His expression was unreadable as always, but his eyes were sharper today. He motioned for Ethan to follow. Lyra's gaze followed them both as they left. The morning air was cool, carrying the sound of the forest waking chirps, rustles, the distant hum of insects. Varric led Ethan away from the main paths, deeper into the trees until the village was no longer in sight. They stopped at the base of a massive, ancient tree, its roots curling like the arms of a giant. "This is where I speak truths," Varric said, his voice low. "Truths the others are not ready to hear." Ethan shifted uneasily. "What truth?" Varric turned to face him fully, his eyes locking onto Ethan's. "You didn't just save a girl in the forest that day." His voice was steady. "You saved my daughter." Ethan froze. "Lyra?" Modoc nodded once. "She is my only child. My heir. If she had died, my bloodline would have ended. My enemies in the council would have taken power. Our people would have been thrown into chaos." Ethan swallowed hard. "I didn't know who she was," that Varric said. "Is the only reason I trust you." Ethan frowned. "Trust me." "I thought you still didn't." Varric's eyes narrowed. "I don't give trust freely. But you acted without thought of gain. That makes you dangerous to those who would use you. And dangerous to me if I don't keep you close." Ethan felt the weight of the words. "So that's why you made me a protector, to keep me close." Varric's lips curved into a faint, grim smile. "Partly, the mark on your arm is not just an honor. It is a bond, one that ties you to my daughter and this village. You will be expected to defend her with your life. Always." The meaning sank in slowly. Ethan's pulse quickened. "Wait, are you saying?" "Yes," Varric said. "You now stand beside her in the eyes of our people. As protector, you have the right to her trust, her company, and one day, perhaps more." Ethan's thoughts spun. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about a life he had never imagined. Lyra wasn't just someone he had saved. She was now someone he was bound to protect. "You don't have to decide your feelings now," Varric continued, "but understand your actions from this day forward will shape her fate. As much as your own." The forest around them seemed to hold its breath. Finally, Ethan spoke. "I won't let anything happen to her." His voice was steady, and he meant it. Varric studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Good, because there are threats coming, shadows moving beyond the forest, and when they come, you will stand between them and my daughter." They began walking back to the village in silence, Ethan's mind heavy with the revelation. When they arrived, Lyra was waiting. Her eyes searched Ethan's face, sensing something had changed. "What did he tell you?" she asked softly. Ethan hesitated, then smiled faintly. "That I'm not going anywhere." Relief flashed in her eyes, followed by something warmer. She stepped closer. "Good, because I don't want you to." For the rest of the day, the village carried on as normal. But for Ethan, nothing felt the same. Every glance from the villagers now carried new weight. Every look from Lyra seemed to hold unspoken words. The armband felt heavier not as a burden, but as a promise. That night, as the drums returned in the distance, Ethan sat by the fire with Lyra. She leaned slightly toward him, her shoulder brushing his. "You'll tell me one day," she said quietly. "What he said to you out there, maybe?" Ethan replied with a small grin. But for now, I'll just keep my promise. She didn't ask what promise. She didn't need to. The warmth in her eyes told him she already knew. Above them, the alien stars burned bright. The forest whispered around the village, and somewhere deep in his chest, Ethan knew his life had been tied to hers from the moment he stepped into that clearing and faced the beast. And whatever came next, he would be ready.